Guys, like, comment, subscribe, share the video, especially if you like college football as much as I do. I miss college football, boy, oh boy. Speaking of college football, our video topic right now is going to be Mishnah, Ohio State, our little brother. I love our child, Ohio State. Ohio State taking on the Notre Dame Fighting Irish at Notre Dame. It's in South Bend this year. It's not the season opener. Both teams are not going to be rusty. They're both going to pretty much know about themselves. They're going to have themselves figured out. And they're going to pretty much know what they got going into this game. This game is not very hard for me to predict at all, and I'll tell you why. Both teams have lost players. Most notably for Ohio State, they lost C.J. Stroud to the draft. I don't think it's going to be that big of a problem to replace him. Not to say he's not good. If you could replace Justin Fields with C.J. Stroud, he's a really good quarterback. You got to imagine Ryan Day has somebody else back there, quarterback, ready to play. That's just the way it is. I mean, I'll give Ryan Day his props. He's good at recruiting. He's good at finding elite players to fill his roster. So I do think Ohio State's going to be a really good football team. No less than top 10 minimum. At most, somewhere in the top 5. Maybe number 1. Who knows? If I'm being honest. But that's going to be a big hit for Ohio State in this game because Ohio State has tended to struggle on the road. They have struggled at Maryland recently. They struggled at Penn State. I know a lot of teams struggle over there, but still, you struggle on the road. That's something to look at. They struggled with Notre Dame at home last year, as a matter of fact. Notre Dame had the lead majority of that game, 10-7. Now, Notre Dame's lack of offense was a problem last year, including in that game. That's why Ohio State pulled away. That and Ohio State's defense was very physical and played pretty good. I expect Ohio State's defense to take a step forward this year. It was pretty good for the most part until they played their big brother. But I'm just kidding. Then they played Georgia and it really didn't look good. I do think you'll see more physicality out of Ohio State's defense. I think they'll tackle a lot better in open spaces. A few touchdowns that we had on them was because of poor tackling in open space. Their run defense was pretty good against Georgia. Georgia did have a few big bursts of runs, but after that, they couldn't run as much. I do think Ohio State's secondary will still be a weakness, but I still think it's going to be improved from last year. Ohio State's offense is the questionable part. But I think it'll take a step back just because CJ's gone, but not enough to where it's not a really good offense. Not to where it's not a top 10, top 5 offense. It's still going to be a good offense. Speaking of offenses, I think Notre Dame's offense is going to really level up with Sam Hartman. Sam Hartman is such a great quarterback. He's made plays against every defense he's played when he's healthy. He lit up Clemson's secondary. A lot of quarterbacks haven't been able to do that. He didn't win, but that's because Wake Forest did not have a good defense with him there, and that's not his fault. Wake Forest should have won more games with him as quarterback. But, the defense, Notre Dame, they do have a defense. They got a very nasty, hard-nosed, physical defense. And you know who has struggled against hard-nosed defenses? Not us. Ohio State has. Ohio State has struggled with Notre Dame last year. They won that game at home. But then they went on to struggle on the road with Penn State, who Michigan, big brother, destroyed at home. They struggled with Georgia. Georgia's defense, they threw the football around, but a lot of teams threw the football around on Georgia when they had good talent. I mean, LSU did it too. But the line of scrimmage was a big problem with Ohio State. You know who else is really good on the line of scrimmage besides us? Notre Dame. So, with that being said, I think Notre Dame should win this game. They should get some revenge at home. What's that say? Okay. Notre Dame should win this game at home. It's going to be a very low-scoring game. I think Notre Dame wins because they'll be able to win the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. I don't think they're going to get 200 rushing yards and pull away like Michigan did this past year, but I do think they'll get between 100 and 120 yards, 115 yards at most. They'll grind out Ohio State's defense, and you'll see Sam Hartman start to throw the football around in that game to keep Ohio State's defense guessing on their toes most of the game. The reason why I don't think they'll score a lot, because I know Ohio State's defense is going to be a little bit better than what it was this past year overall. I think they'll hold Notre Dame to some field goals, but Notre Dame's going to win that line of scrimmage, and Notre Dame's defense is nothing to play with. It wasn't last year, and it's not going to be this year. With the exception of Caleb Williams, nobody else did what they wanted with Notre Dame's defense. I know South Carolina scored a lot of points, but you also got to remember it was a pick six and a special teams touchdown that was scored on Notre Dame. So Notre Dame's defense didn't do too bad in that game, really, if I'm being honest. And Yeah, I think Notre Dame wins this game. I don't think Ohio State's offensive line will be able to hold up with Notre Dame again. Last year it was a problem, but they were at home and they managed to pull away. They had C.J. Stroud. He really didn't make much of a difference in that game. As far as being the reason, Ohio State had a few good run plays to pull away in the end, but they're not going to have that this time. And you got to think about this: Notre Dame has won their last two home games when they played top five teams. They were both Clemson, but they still did it. So that tells me that Notre Dame's on a trend. That trend will not stop with Ohio State. I think Notre Dame wins this game 23-16. It could be uglier, but Notre Dame's red zone offense might struggle a little bit because Ohio State's got some talented players on that defense. But it could be a little bit worse. Notre Dame's tends to, and they for some reason, again, they've lost to teams like Stanford and Marshall at home, but yet they show up against top five Clemson and they beat them like they stole something. So I expect them to play really good again in this game, and I think they'll get the job done. They shouldn't have any problems. That's just my opinion. That physicality is going to catch up with Ohio State this year. Really catch up with them.